Let me know when you're recording, Derek.
It has been recording for 10 minutes.
Shock. How dare you listen in on my personal conversations? Hello, friends and fiends. Welcome to Bugs Need Heroes, a podcast illustrating the inspiring abilities of insects. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Kelly.
Before we get started creating this bug-themed character, what is bugging you, Kelly?
Oh, it's hot. I'm sure it's hotter in other places than it is here in New Jersey, but I don't like it. I'm a big wimp when it comes to being hot. I worked in an oil spill cleanup a few years ago. Oh God, many years ago now, in on the Kalamazoo River in Michigan, and it was it was 100 degrees, super high humidity.
Ugh.
And it's me and like 200 dudes. There were no women, and nowhere to go to the bathroom. We're on a 12-foot island, 12 to 24-foot island, no restrooms, and I got such horrible heat stress that they had to medic boat me back. And ever since then, I can't handle anything above 80 degrees.
I mean, that's
terrible.
That quadrant of the United States, it has the hottest hats and the lowest lows, right? It's like it's 4 foot of snow and it's 100 degrees in the summer.
It's
that's
crazy.
All that part. Yeah. It's nuts to me being from the Pacific Northwest and the Portland area in specific. It's like such a temperate zone. I think they call it they even refer to it as like a temporal rainforest or a temperate rainforest like that.
Nice.
And Portland can't handle it. It gets hot and people are like, it's hot. It gets cold. People are like, it's cold. It's like a real baby bear situation where it can only be between these degrees or the people freak out.
I thought it got really cold in Portland in the winter. No?
Oh no. It's been rare that it snows here. Like snow days here are 3 flurries in the air and like, it's gonna snow. We gotta send the children home. The children can't handle the snow. Meanwhile, there's kids in Minnesota that are like, the snow's higher than their heads, and here they are trucking on uphill both ways. They don't care.
I didn't realize it was so temperate. Yeah, we're pretty good about snow here in New Jersey. We get quite a bit, so school never closes unless it's like really big. But I do have a small fan on me right now, so if you guys can hear it in the background, I'm sorry, but I'm melting. I'm currently melting.
Oh, sorry about it.
What's bugging you, Amanda? Is it also
the heat? What's bugging me? I mean, other than the heat, the heat's bad. I've heard, and I apologize for bringing up your specialty area, but it sounds like the mosquitoes are going nuts in this heat.
Oh, they're very happy. The mosquitoes are happy buzzy babies at the moment.
Happy buzzy babies. That's the cutest reference I've ever heard to mosquito. We will, of course, have to have a mosquito episode pretty soon because it is what your specialty subject is. If you were on Jeopardy, your specialty subject would be mosquitoes.
It would be mosquitoes. I left a big what I call a love letter to mosquitoes on a comment on Reddit yesterday, and people were surprisingly kind. I thought for sure they were going to be like, "You're a monster. You're insane.
How dare you? How dare you advocate for this little blood-sucking fiend?
Don't defend them." But I won't do any spoilers. I mean, if you find me on Reddit, you can feel free to look at the comment. But we will have a mosquito episode, and I will tell you a little bit about why they're great.
All right,
but also terrible. They're also terrible. I'm not a full apologist.
This is, of course, a good time to plug that if you're a Reddit user, we do have a Reddit. What's it called? A subreddit? Shows how literate I am in Reddit. A subreddit where you can comment, send questions, talk to us. We're there.
Yeah. Our bugs need heroes. Come hang out with us in the subreddit, or I mean, really, in our Instagram to check out Amanda's images. Amanda's beautiful artwork.
Again, I think we have all the socials that matter, minus Facebook, because Facebook is bad.
I'm not doing Facebook.
Yeah, I don't want to moderate a Facebook, so that's where we are.
No.
I've just seen too many Facebook conversations just dissolve into madness.
It's just a platform. It's a platform I don't particularly care for. But anyway,
this week's episode.
We're talking about dragonflies and damselflies, which most folks will be happy to hear eat mosquitoes.
The predator of your friend. The enemy of your enemy. So damselflies and dragonflies. Are they that different from each other that they warrant two different names? Because that's always my first question. Like, is the sexual dimorphism between these two adults so great that they need separate names? Or is it just fun to say damselflies and
Oh
dragonflies?
no, they're very different.
Oh, really?
They're from the same order, which is Odonata, and that refers to they have toothed mouth parts, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, I always assumed they were the boy and the girl. Am I wrong about that?
Oh, did you assume the dragon? Wait,
I always thought that the
Amanda has stumped me with this question.
I always thought that they were boys and girls. Am I a crazy person and that's not the case at all?
Listeners,
I'm laughing at me, but I always thought that was the case.
Listeners, I'm covering my face with my hands because I can't believe this question. I love it. I love this. No, they're very different organisms. Yes.
Oh man, here come the bug people for me. They're gonna be like, this idiot thinks she could be on a podcast about bugs. First she thinks caterpillars don't become moths, and now she thinks damselflies and dragonflies are two different, or there's boys and girls.
Listeners, don't at Amanda, please.
Don't at me. Don't at me. I started episode 1 with, I don't know much about bugs, and I want to get back to a place where I know more about animals.
Well, you're learning. We're here to learn, and I'm constantly learning too. I don't know everything about everything.
If it's not a charismatic megafauna, I do not know about it. I'm sorry.
Good usage of the word megafauna.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things I learned, ironically, on Facebook.
So let's oh boy, let's dive in to dragonflies and damselflies.
Start with that. The very basics. What is a damselfly, especially in comparison to a dragonfly?
So while they do belong to the same order, and I know before we were doing generally looking at families or even genera, but they belong to two different suborders. So they are not even the same genus. They are very separated animals. What can you, Amanda, what can you tell me about a dragonfly and a damselfly? What do they look like to you?
Well, I guess I've been imagining dragonflies this whole time with the like perpendicular to their body wings, like a double set of wings. They hang out around water. They're, I guess I've always thought of them as kind of like a helicopter bug that they can kind of go up, down, this way, that way.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I
guess
helicopter
bugs.
And knowing that I did not realize damselfly was a separate thing.
Which one did you think was the boy, and which one did you think was the girl?
Boy was the dragonfly.
Was the big one?
With the big boy. And I guess I mean, damsel inspires a feminine sort of reaction. We're back to like the ladybug discussion.
Well, they come in two sexes.
They come in two sexes.
Sex is your genetic.
The bugs don't typically have an assumption about gender.
No. Gender is
a separate discussion. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, it's funny that you think that the big chunky one is the male, because most of the time in insects, the female is the larger of the two sexes. Right. So they are quite different, and not just in the chunk factor, that the dragonflies are bigger. Their wings cannot fold behind their back. Amanda can see me. I'm doing like wing motions with my arms.
Yeah.
Damselflies can fold their wings all the way back along their abdomen. They also have different wing sizes. So dragonflies have two differently sized wings, which makes them faster and a little more aerodynamic. So dragonflies are large. They have thick bodies. Their wings do not fold along the abdomen like damselflies do. Damselflies are long and slender, and their wings do fold up in the back. There's also, and those are adults I'm talking about, they both have little tiny antennae. I think people generally think dragonflies don't have antennae, but they do. They're just small. They're generally iridescent. Both types are iridescent. And we talked about iridescence in the emerald ash borer episode, right? With the ridging.
Right.
That causes different colors. And their mouths are made for chomping. Their mouth parts are toothed. It's called a labrum rather. The labrum is like the upper lip of the insect. You can think of it that way. And a little bit like alien, they can push it out forward.
Oh no!
And like hold on to their prey with it. It's even more pronounced in their larvae. Their larvae can like really shoot them out. It's pretty crazy looking.
I guess looking at these two pictures of the damsel and the dragon next to each other, I just never realized that like the wing position wasn't something that the dragonfly could do, and so I just thought they were resting in different positions. Looking at it now, I can see.
Completely
Oh,
incapable.
Okay.
They can't fold their wings back. It's not their.
It's kind of like
muscle
that.
Attachments don't allow for it.
It's kind of like that. How the butterfly sits on a plant versus how a moth sits on a plant. The moth typically has them back, and the butterfly has them like up or open. I don't know.
Yeah, I just that's a pretty good comparison.
I just think I literally never noticed that one held them one way and one held them another. And so in my mind, basic shape, general form and shape, they were both dragonflies to me.
Well, that's why we're here, right? We're here to
to educate my pleb, my plebness.
You and me, when I make notes for these episodes, I sometimes learn a little bit extra that I wasn't aware of coming into it, but not with the mosquitoes when we do that episode.
You'll be just flying from the hip on that one.
Let's just be hip shots for that one. So those are the difference between the adult forms. Have you ever seen a larva or the nymphal form?
I have, and this is going to get back to so many of these. We're revealing so much about how I haven't thought about bugs since I was 10. But as kids, we had several videos of Eyewitness. I don't know if anyone remembers Eyewitness, and it's totally slamming opening song. Do, 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 do.
Oh, I remember
the
that.
people who know.
I remember the song,
know. Yeah. But we had the bug video, and they had a whole section on the nymphs in that, where it like is the predator of the deep, and it comes for stuff. And it and like you said, the mouth parts like protruding from its face, so it could really eat its stuff. I remember that specifically.
They're very cool looking. They eat everything, everything that they can catch. Tadpoles, small fish, mosquito larvae, beetle larvae. They'll eat each other. They don't care. They're hungry.
So how big are they? A tadpole can be pretty hardy.
About like an inch or
oh,
so.
Man.
They can be pretty chunky, and they look different. So the dragonfly larvae is a little bit thicker than a damselfly larvae, and their gills, so they have gills because they're aquatic, are located inside the abdomen. But if you look at a damselfly larvae, they have like a 3-pronged gill that sticks out the back end of their abdomen. So super easy to tell the difference between the two. And they don't look dainty. I know adult damselflies look dainty. The larvae do not.
They're in there living their larva life, which, as we've discussed, the larva is he's after one thing, and it is to get chunky.
It is. It's their one goal.
So the gill on the back, did they stick that? Do they breathe air?
Well, they're pulling oxygen in through the water, just like fish gills.
Okay, so they're not like using that last one as like a snorkel or anything.
No. Which is something mosquitoes do. They actually use a siphon. But so I think because our two groups here are so different, are we going to have double heroes?
I think we gotta follow the form of the bug heroes that exist in the public consciousness of the Ant-Man. Is he the Ant-Man, or is he just Ant-Man?
I think it's just Ant-Man. right? Isn't it just Ant-Man and the Wasp for the?
Yeah, she's the Wasp, and he's just Ant-Man. Because
he's just.
There's a bunch of debate about Spider-Man, whether he's Spider-Man or the Spider-Man as well, I believe.
Or with or without a hyphen for Spider-Man.
With or without a hyphen.
I always read it with a hyphen.
It's always with a hyphen.
Is it always with
a hyphen? Yeah, he is a spider hyphen man.
Because I've seen people write it without the hyphen, but they're wrong.
Well, they are wrong.
They are wrong.
They are
good. Screw them, and they're incorrect.
Who do they think they are? Thinking damselflies and dragonflies are the same animal? Idiots.
Who thinks like that? They're obviously very different.
Obviously, a Spider-Man and a spider hyphen man are two separate things. Sorry, I derailed us with my madness.
No, it's fine. And that the aquatic life cycle can last for 2 years. Most of the time it's 2 years. Just remember like our friend the woolly bear, where you just want to stay and get as chunked up as possible.
Yeah.
For however as long as possible. So it takes about 2 years to become an adult. Sometimes 5 years. It really depends.
So they're fully aquatic for a big chunk of their life.
Oh yeah. I think there are some that they can wrap it up in 3 months. So it depends on the location, the water temperature, food availability. There's a lot of factors that go into when it's time to become an adult. Just like when you're a teenager. Where's all my food?
Give it to me. That brings an interesting question that I was fascinated by on our subreddit, where, here's this guy hanging out in the pond for up to 5 years, and then he's an adult for not nearly as long. And Zebedee on our subreddit says, we think of moths and butterflies as being the animal and everything else being subordinate to that. But wouldn't it be more accurate to think of the animal as a caterpillar with a mating phase? And I think that's true, like you said, of a lot of bugs, is that they spend a lot of time as their young, quote unquote, form. But we still refer to them as that final form. Why are we so obsessed with the final form?
We're interested in the end point. What is the end of this? What is the final cycle section of this animal? And generally, for me anyway, when I'm thinking about this, is that final stage is far easier to identify.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah.
Than the larval stage, especially for, maybe not for caterpillars. We think about certain caterpillars are very easy to identify. They're brightly colored, they have specific patterns, they have protrusions. But when we think of maybe beetle larvae, for instance, beetle larvae just look like white grubby grubs.
Right.
And it's much easier to tell when I'm looking at when it's an adult. Same thing for the dragonfly and the damselfly. Their larvae, you can tell them apart, but they're not easily told apart at that stage. It's much simpler to look at adults. Mosquitoes too. You can key out mosquito larvae, but it's far easier to look at an adult. So that might be kind of part of it. They're flashy. The adults are flashy and nice to look at for most organisms.
I would say I'm a lot more likely to run into a dragonfly than a baby dragonfly. I think they're called nymphs or something like that. I'm more likely to see a dragonfly than I am ever to see the little guy swimming in the pond, because I don't spend a lot of time with ponds, but I do spend time just walking around, and then whoa, there goes dragonfly.
You're right. Although I see producer Derek brought up a good question about economics in these animals, and I think about the silkworm particularly. I know Derek just typed in, was it tomato hornworm moth? When we think about them as organisms that affect humans, we do talk about their larval stage.
Oh,
so we talk about silkworms. We talk about the tomato hornworm caterpillar, which eats our tomato plants. Then we tend to focus on that larval stage. Everything classic is in relation to humans.
I was going to say classic humans, centering our own experience. How dare you?
It's anthropocentric, whether we want it to be or not. It's just how we function, right?
Well, as an anthropo myself.
One of my favorite anthropos, Amanda.
Thank you. I live to Poe. So they're a nymph. They're just eating away, eating anything that crosses their path. Is there anything else that they're doing down there that I should know about? What are those mystery nymphs up to?
Well, they are a little mysterious. Kind of cool thing about nymphs, and this is the first animal that we're talking about. And I'll probably consistently refer to them as animals instead of trying to discuss whether we're parsing out insect versus arthropod versus arachnid, right?
Right.
Insects are animals. They're all animals. I'll just keep saying
they're all little dudes.
Yeah. Bugs, I guess. So they have what we call an incomplete life cycle. They do not pupate. They have, I think it's about 15 stages or so, depending on species, of being a nymph.
Mm-hmm.
So they just keep shedding or molting that exoskeleton to become eventually an adult. No pupal stage. So they're not gooping like our caterpillar friends.
So they're more like a tadpole in that they slowly shift into their adult form rather than
I
goo
think
out and become
that's a good
their adult.
comparison, Amanda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It makes me think that maybe there's something about the water element to that. But do you find that the ones who have an incomplete ones are mostly aquatic, or is it just
no,
random?
because we have aquatic beetles.
Oh,
and they
they do pupate.
Pupate, yeah. Beetles go through complete metamorphosis. So there are other grasshoppers and crickets have incomplete metamorphosis, and they're fully terrestrial.
Oh, interesting.
I'm sure we'll cover.
Yeah, you'd say that.
Yeah,
Grasshoppers just become grasshoppers.
Cockroaches too.
So 15 times he ditches his jacket, and he's a little bit different.
A little bigger each time.
Yeah, he's a little bit different every time he comes out.
They're down there, they're swimming, they're hunting, and this always makes me laugh. And for the listeners, I hope you do look for this on YouTube. They can pull, when threatened, they'll pull water into their bodies, and then they shoot it out the back of their abdomen.
Oh,
they're
like little
jet
reverse
skis.
bidet action. Yeah. And do they shoot it at the predator, or are they just shooting it to get away?
Just away. And this is
jet propulsion,
a dragonfly, specifically a dragonfly quality. But it's very funny to watch if you check it out on YouTube. I wish I had my own video of this. I guess that's the next step. We get cameras and we start trying to get our own videos.
We start adventuring out into the field. I don't know if you have this out in New Jersey, but in Oregon we have a TV show called Oregon Field Guide. And it's essentially that. It's essentially, this week we're going to cover something that's happening in Oregon, and it's just people out there doing their thing.
Doing things. That sounds great. We have like PBS. We have New Jersey.
Yeah,
PBS
it's a PBS show. I think it's an OPB show, which is the
OPB.
Oregon Public Broadcasting.
I think ours is NJPBS or something like that.
Yeah.
But you can look in a pond, look anywhere there's kind of standing water, you'll find them. You can also populate your ponds with them if you have like a pond in your yard or something, but make sure they're native. Please don't put anything non-native in your yard.
Always
make sure any biological control you want to use is native for your area. I'm also a big proponent for planting native plants in your yard instead of ornamental nonsense.
There's tons of lists out there of like plants that help bees, plants that help whatever. So if you're conscientious of what's in your yard, please go find those flowers and plant those specifically.
Yeah, only use native species. So when they're ready, when they're done jetting around and chomping, and it's time for them to become adults, they'll start to hang out towards the top of the water, and they can breathe air. They're shifting their bodies so they can breathe air at that point. And then either they crawl up onto the substrate around the pond, or they crawl up vegetation, and then they can start pushing the metamorphosis is very neat. So a split will form right down the center of your nymph, and then they'll start pushing the wings out first, and that the center part of their bodies, the thorax. And then eventually they'll pull themselves all the way out. They have to pump hemolymph. So we remember what hemolymph was from the ladybug episode.
Yes, the little bug blood that's not quite the same as our blood, our human blood, our po blood, as it were.
Our anther blood. And they pump all that through their limbs, and it helps. It fills everything. It spreads the wings. It gives the wings structure and shape. And they need to rest after that because it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting to do that in about maybe an hour to a couple days, depending on the species, before they're ready to like get out into the world as an adult. It's very cool. In the summertime, you can see them along the edge of the pond, the empty exuvia. Exuvia is just our fancy word for their exoskeleton. Their empty exoskeleton.
There's always fancy words for these things.
We like our vocabulary in science. We like our jargon.
Well, how else are you going to keep the plebs out? How else are you going to keep those plebs from knowing what you're talking about?
Gotta keep that glass ceiling in place.
The glass ceiling between me, an intellectual, and you, a moron.
Oh, Amanda, I would never call you a moron.
Your laughter did plenty to make me feel I was a moron when I thought Tales of Dragonflies.
I was crying. I was laughing so hard. I love it. That wonder, that means everything is exciting, because I'm a shriveled old raisin because I know
You know
so
too much. You've
Yeah.
seen too much.
I love talking to people who don't know too much about the topics that I know because then I get to experience the joy. Like you've got
The
that
joy of
joy
discovery.
about it. Yeah. Not to
be
sound
clear,
too
I feel no actual offense at you laughing at me. That's why. Feel free. I do not take offense at you saying, "Amanda, you absolute fool. You fool."
How dare you?
How dare you?
Yeah, so then they're adults. I'm trying to think about what we want to talk about. Oh, I guess so this is a safe for children podcast, but I will mention briefly mating.
Yes.
Not in depth because
Behaviors.
there's some interesting things about dragonfly mating that feel free to Google, but I'm not going to talk about it here. Or you know what? You can go to the subreddit and ask me, and I'll give you a more in-depth, or you can email me, that's fine too, a more in-depth discussion about particularly interesting parts of dragonfly mating. So I'm sure you've seen two dragonflies stuck together when they're flying around.
I have. I've seen them. I don't want to use the phrase tip to tip. I have seen them kind of tail to tail, seemingly stuck together as they sit on like a reed by the pond, as it were.
Right, and that's how they, for lack of more description, that is their mating pose. And males will also guard the females once mating is done because they don't want other males coming in taking their ladies. Pretty frequent
Always
among animals, yeah, among humans and damselflies alike. And when she's ready, the female will deposit or oviposit eggs. What's kind of cool is there's two types of what we call oviposition. I'm thinking about jargon. Do I want a jargon? Well, jargon. When females are ovipositing their eggs, they're either endophytic or exophytic. Endophytic is deposition within plants, endo in, phyto plants, and then exophytic is basically not in a plant.
Just out in the open.
Out in the open.
Free and in the breeze.
They put them, the ones that aren't deposited into plants are covered in sort of like a jelly, and then they either float them on the water, and you'll see there's a video that I did share from YouTube of a female chunky dragonfly depositing eggs directly into the water, and you'll see them take their long abdomens and kind of boop them repeatedly into the top of the water.
Gently placing.
And this one was actually walking backwards to do that. That reminds me of a common myth on the internet that I see all the time, that dragonflies can't walk. They can walk. They don't like to walk.
Those little leggies aren't just for show.
No, they're well, when you think about a dragonfly, their legs are basket shaped, right? And that's for catching prey, and that's for gripping vegetation. I keep making hand motions, and I'm sorry no one can see me but Amanda and Derek to describe how this works. But they can walk. They're just not very good at it.
So their legs are more like a claw machine that you see where meh. So they can scuttle about on them, but it's not elegant.
It's not great, yeah.
Not elegant like the damselfly. Okay.
Yeah. The damselfly also can walk if it wants to. They just don't like it. So they will gently oviposit into the water, or for those who deposit inside vegetation, they have kind of these knife-like ends to them, which can't hurt us. They can't sting, they don't bite. Dragonflies and damselflies are nice. They're nice.
They're nice.
But they kind of stab the vegetation and insert the eggs that way. So there's a few different options. And then damselflies in particular, not all of them, there's a particular group that will do this. While the male and female are still connected, they will dive bomb into the water. The female will become fully submerged. Then she will lay her eggs, and she has to rely on the male to fly and pull her butt out of that water.
A real trust exercise happening between these little bugs. Okay, I'm gonna let you do this, but you have to pull me out at the end. Oh, I will, babe. Don't worry, I will.
I like your male sounded like he was from Staten Island.
I mean, you would know better than me. I don't know what kind of reputation Staten Island has for bombing their ladies into the water, but I mean, you got to keep it fresh. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, you got to spice the relationship.
You got to spice it up
a little
now
bit.
and then.
But it's very cool. I love these two groups. I love to watch them fly. I love the fighting that happens. Males will fight each other. So
oh, they're doing midair battles with one another.
Oh, it's crazy.
See, that I'd like to see.
And they can do this because their wings are all what's the word? Their wings can move independently. That's why they can hover, they can move forward, they can fly backwards, which we don't see in.
And that's all four of their little wings can all
independent movement.
So they are more helicopter-like even than I knew.
Yeah, they can't do little swirlies. That's not a.
Oh, disagree.
No swirlies.
I think they just haven't had the right motivation to do little swirlies.
Perhaps they just need. I think they just need a pep talk from Amanda.
They just look. I'm gonna get that Ant-Man helmet, but dragonflies. I'm gonna tell. Look, guys, what you really need to do is do little swirlies.
They're so cool. They're so neat that we've engineers have designed lots of robots based on the flight of dragon and damselflies. Actually, in the 1970s, the CIA created this little, basically flying dragonfly probe, and it was to spy on people. It was gas powered.
Gas powered.
It's so tiny. It's this tiny little gas powered thing.
How much
if you
gas
look it
could
up,
you
there's
put in a tiny dragonfly.
I know.
It feels like it's flying 6 feet and be done.
Well, what's great is that they designed it to just crash land into objects. They couldn't figure out how to make it gentle land, so they would use it. They wanted to use it. It was never actually put into real use that we know of, and it was guided by like a laser system.
I can't wait to hear what the CIA is up to now with like current technology, because you hear all
this
the
was
stories
the
about,
70s.
like, what they were up to in the 70s. The 70s were a time though. What were the 70s up to? I mean,
lots. The 70s are up to lots.
The 70s are up to some shady things. Those 70s.
Oh, I think for a drawing, Amanda, maybe they should have a little robot dragonfly that follows them around.
Oh yeah, give them a little drone. Yeah,
little drone,
okay,
yeah.
Here we go.
Because I'm sure our heroes would have better technology than 1970s CIA.
You'd hope.
Maybe.
You never know.
Or current. Currently we're still creating interesting dragonfly-like robots.
Little did I know that there was a whole secret world of like dragonfly enhancement. All these cyborg robot dragonflies.
It's a lot. And dragonflies are really popular. I don't know if it's just growing up down the shore, but the amount of dragonfly tattoos that I saw.
Oh, really?
As a younger woman, yeah.
Your dragonfly tattoos is to our Pacific Northwest tree tattoo, because we get trees here. It's all trees and mountains.
All trees all the time.
Yeah. So that's interesting because we don't have that here. We don't have dragonflies here. We have trees.
It's neat how things change regionally. But there were really, in some cultures in like Japan and China, dragonflies are good luck. They're seen as part of the spirit world. They bring in rich rice harvests. I love the folklore for this kind of thing. But in Europe, they're evil. They're called the Devil's Needle.
The Devil's Needle. Oh man. I've said before, the naming conventions of all the colloquial names for these bugs is my favorite part. The Devil's Needle.
In Denmark, they're the Devil's Horse, which is kind of cool.
Tiny devils riding around on little dragonflies.
I don't know what devil's riding that dragonfly, but it's a thing. And in Sweden, they're
well, he's obviously spying on you as
hobgoblin fly, riding in with the CIA. So depending on what culture you're from, dragonflies can either be a really like exciting thing to see or a really bad omen. Several indigenous tribes in North America also use them on their pottery. I think the Hopi were one, and the Zuni. I think they're in maybe Colorado. I'm not as good with my indigenous knowledge, but I love them. I love to see a dragonfly. I don't subscribe to their devilry.
No, we're pro fly here. We want the rice harvest. Good luck. We don't want that tiny devils spying on us, whispering our sins to the devil himself.
Are you? So I'm looking at you now. Are you drawing? Are you?
Yes. So I've drawn 2 of them. I've got the dragonfly. I'm going to fall into stereotype here, but I got to make the damselfly the lady.
The lady.
Because I thought she was a lady. I've got the 2 drones here. I'm working on their helmets right now. I've gone for kind of that flight suit, big helmet, because they kind of have these big heads as a dragonfly.
And big eyes.
Almost all eye on this head.
So for dragonflies, their eyes touch, which might be a thing to consider while you're drawing. Maybe, I don't know, goggles or something.
Yeah.
And with damselflies, the eyes don't meet in the center. So she's got a little more room there. But they are mostly eye. They can see in every direction except directly behind them. They have excellent visual coverage. It's very cool. I keep saying it's very cool, but I just love dragonflies. They're fun. And it's nice to talk about a bug that I don't hate, like the emerald ash borer.
You mentioned in Japan and in Denmark, I think you said Denmark. So are these guys just everywhere across the world? There's no indigenous race?
They're pretty cosmopolitan. They're not in Antarctica.
Well, who is?
Yeah.
Bears.
They're not in
that
Antarctica.
much I know for
the
sure.
Woolly bears. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Those dang woolly bears. They've got a monopoly on hanging out in the Antarctic.
Yeah.
Just them and those penguins.
We used to have...
I'm going to have to cut that. I don't live in Antarctica.
Well, we said that they could get really, really cold.
You said Antarctic.
Oh, I meant the Arctic. Woolly bears.
You meant the Arctic, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I said Antarctic because
we get excited.
we forget where the bears are versus where the bears aren't.
I take Amanda's lead with the excitement and forget what continent I'm talking about. Just cut it out, Derek. Just save us. That's what you're here for. Save Arctic. Anyway, so damselflies are pretty cosmopolitan. They're just about everywhere but the Antarctic. But we used to have huge dragonfly-like animals. They're technically they're not part of order Odonata. They're not the same thing. They're their own order. I think that might be somewhat newish. So taxonomy is weird and constantly changing. So the really big ones are from order Meganisoptera. And they had a wingspan of 28 inches.
So we're talking like prehistoric here.
Prehistoric, yeah.
Where like you'll see those
animals.
You'll see those posters of dinosaur art.
It's always on the dinosaur
huge
poster.
Bugs. It's always on the dinosaur poster. Well, I was a dinosaur kid, so let me tell you about the amount of giant dragonflies I've seen in my lifetime. So they were just huge dudes. 28, that's 2 feet. Nearly 2 1/4.
Very big. Yes, very, very big.
I don't want that coming at me. That's going to spy on me for sure.
That one you would at least notice.
If I might notice him droning past my house.
Notice a large 28-inch drone coming by in the shape of a dragonfly. And that was because I'm sure everyone has heard this explanation a million times, but it's likely due to the high levels of oxygen in the atmosphere. That
they just had the ability to get that big.
They could get that big. We had big spiders back then. We had big boy everything. Must have been so neat. Can you picture that, being around a 28-inch wingspan dragonfly? I can't.
I can picture myself running away from a 28-inch dragonfly coming at me with its mouth that pushes out of its own face. No thanks.
It's toothed mandibles.
Anything with a toothed mandible doesn't need to be very close to me, if I'm honest.
How's your drawing coming?
So I've decided to give the dragonfly kind of a robot body to reference his cyborg uses.
I like that.
But I'm trying very hard not to make him just look like Iron Man with a flight suit head on.
Let's be aware of copyright. And
yes, always. I always am. It's a whole class at art school. They're like, now look out. What counts? Really? I mean, it's mentioned a lot. It is mentioned a lot, especially with our current climate of like, where does fan art begin and copyright infringement and like you, and as a company, right? There's this kind of you want fans to engage in your stuff, which means you want them to do things like create OCs based off of your stuff, but you don't want them to be your direct competitor. So you don't want them to sell things with your stuff on it because that's money you're not making.
So
So
there's a pretty fine, and I hear Disney is pretty harsh.
Disney's very harsh
Right.
about it. This is going to delve a little bit into my personal stuff. Okay, so for those of you who have visited my Instagram, you'll know that I draw a lot of Disney stuff. So this is something I'm very aware of. Disney will generally accept the goodwill of people drawing Disney stuff because they want you to engage in it. But the minute you put anything on a t-shirt, they're up your nose about it because they sell t-shirts.
Oh, okay.
They don't typically sell a lot of customized commission work. So they generally will leave those people alone. That's me. They generally will leave me alone.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting.
And if you're making some sort of commentary, you know, one of the popular Disney things to do is to draw Disney characters in historical dress that's more accurate to the time period they're from. That's a whole thing. And in general, I have not done that. You'd think I would, given how much I talk about historical dress on this podcast.
Dressing. Yeah.
I haven't, just because it's a really popular sort of thing, and sometimes there's kind of this, oh, well, someone already did that, you know, oh, someone already did it better than I would have done it, so I want to do it, you know, which is a mindset I try to break out of whenever I can, because, like, people love the same things over and over again. Look at action movies, look at romance. People like those tropes for a reason, and you should
capitalize on that.
Yeah. I mean, this is for a very specific audience, but how many coffee shop AUs have you read and loved every single one? So by all means, do as many historical dress Disney characters as you want. I've done Disney characters as D&D characters, but that was for a private commission. So
that sounds really fun, though. It sounds very cute.
Very fun. Damsels and Dragonflies, D&D. So Disney will generally leave you alone with those private. Hold on, Derek's typing at me. Make them D&D right now. Okay. So.
We haven't had any D&D-esque heroes.
That makes me want to switch them from. It makes me want to switch them from cyborgs into D&D stuff. But what would they be? Would they be rogues? Would they be thieves? Make it armor. Okay, there we go. I want to say that Dragonfly because he spies on you. He's actually a rogue. He's a no good rogue.
I like a rogue. Would they both be rogues?
Well, if they're a team up, you need to complement each other's.
Yeah.
If any party builder knows, you got to switch up everybody's abilities. A rogue and a ranger, yeah, that makes sense.
I think that would work. Well, I'm excited for our first D&D base.
Yeah, our first, not that usual Marvel brand we've been doing. Well, I don't, our comic brand,
general comic brand, yeah,
general comicness. But I mean, let's face it, we know who's winning.
I used to DM a D&D game a long time ago, and then my friends all had children, and that it became impossible.
The song I already know.
Impossible to meet up as much as I miss it.
I will say one thing for quarantine has made the digital meetup for D&D really take off. So there's a lot more platform like add-ons for that sort of stuff that has been fun. Okay, so how do we want to address his eyes? I gave him these goggles before. We'll have to give him a different kind of...
They could just be like steampunky.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. I still gotta make them big. Boop, 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 boop. Gotta put those useless screws on because that's what steampunk's all about.
Screws that do nothing.
Screws that are purely aesthetic.
Take your time. It's not a big deal.
I'm gonna give him that little dorky flat cap that a lot of Renaissance paintings have, because that's my favorite one.
Oh, I like the flat cap.
Do I need to ditch the wings now that they're a little bit more D&D based, or just call it a spell?
Yeah. Can you draw them to look like a spell?
Yeah, probably.
You know where they're like ephemeral
with some color,
kind of. Yeah, that'd be cool.
So when I see them, it seems like they're just zipping by. How fast are they really moving?
Well, some species can get up to about 25, 30 miles an hour. They're pretty fast.
Whoa! So they're going like too fast for a school zone. Yeah. These guys.
But their cruising speed is probably closer to 5 to 7. It's they're not zipping the whole time.
Right, that's their sprinting speed. They're not Usain Bolting it just like through their life. And so, are they solitary animals, or do they hang out together? I feel like I see a lot of them when I'm at a pond, but
they come together.
I just figured they're near the pond.
Yeah, they come together like most. They're not colonial, so they're not like bees. They don't live together, but they do come around each other when it's time to mate, and yeah, that's really about it. It's just for mating.
I feel like these guys are just kind of basic. I need something to make them more dragonfly versus just dudes.
Um, they could have shoulder coverings that are scaled like a dragon.
Scaled. I was
Maybe
like, I had coverings on them, but I will
you
scale
could
them.
scale them and make them an iridescent color, maybe. Although I don't think rogues want to be iridescent, but
Okay, I'm gonna add some dark lines to this so you guys can see what's actually happening versus what my crazy lines are. Try to be fast while also being relatively clean. Ugh.
yeah, it's okay.
I'm gonna give her a knife
A knife? That's not a
because
knife.
she stabs things. She stabs plants. Sorry, it's taking so long. I'm trying to. There's two of them this time. It takes a little bit longer.
Fine. No problem.
Are you giving them any aquatic things, Amanda? Like a snorkel or something?
I haven't, but I can.
Are they teenagers? Have they not reached their adulthood?
They're halfway through. They're still snorkeling, but their wings are coming in. Scarves are such a cliche of flight, and yet they look so good. All right, let me add these little. What color should I use for magic? Probably bright blue.
Yeah, bright blue sounds good.
What color are they? They're blue, green.
So they have base colors of like red, brown, black, but their iridescence can be anything. Usually you see them as blue and green, sometimes yellow too. So blue, green, yellow.
I mean, I find their wings to be really fascinating. That they remind me of leaves and how veined they are. Does that serve some sort of purpose, or is it just strength?
It's all just strength.
Mm.
But the wings are cool because sometimes they're clear and other times they have colored in sections.
Depending on what kind of dragonfly it is, or
Yeah, like
damselfly.
the jewel wing damselflies sometimes have like black wings and they're very cool looking with their brightly colored bodies.
Once again, we're back at a bug that is just so beautiful. Like, I want to take it apart and put it on my clothes.
I want to wear the bug.
I want to wear the bug. I want to be the bug. Some D&D enthusiast can tell us exactly what spell might approximate giving yourself dragonfly wings.
Some kind of fancy flight, I guess.
I like D&D, and I've played for a long time, but I'm not very good at that. I'm not at that point where I know all the spells and stuff. The part that turns me off D&D has always been the amount of math you have to do. Which is why, controversial opinion, I think E5 is good for the brand because I think it makes it more accessible to more people. Which, well, I know some hardcore people are like, E5E, whatever they want to call it. It's too simple now. It takes away all the fun. I disagree with that statement, but everyone likes different things, different strokes for different D&D folks. All right, I'm just doing this dragon and then we're good to go.
Sure.
This dragon's kind of more Komodo dragon shaped than typical dragon shaped.
We didn't specify what kind of dragon.
Did not. I'm just going to have to imply his wings so that it doesn't get too messy in this drawing. I guess that means they'd be wearing this dragon scale off of their little friend here.
Well, dragons might shed their scales.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. Especially if he's a weebab going through his larval stage. Alright. Chunky boy. That's the dragonfly. One last little drone. Okay, I'm ready to share the black and white version with you guys.
Alright.
Let me just quickly hit save here. It's actually black and white and magic blue, but that's okay. All right, into the art tag it goes. We've done a D&D inspired look here. They're both wearing this kind of
I love it.
Frock. I don't know what the technical term for this shoulder covering is. Made of scales to reference their scaly little bodies. Giving them both scarves to reference their flight powers. The blue wings. Again, I will have to ask somebody who knows more about spells than me to what sort of winged cast you could put on yourself. They got a little dragon friend. Guess who doesn't like a dragon
adorable.
friend? We've got goggles on.
Oh, it looks great. Little rogue dragonfly and damselfly. How perfect.
They're coming in. They're gonna steal your stuff. They're gonna. I don't know. We kind of make them sound like jerks in this. They're lovable scamps. So I think these are cool little guys. How many legs would you give them?
5 out of 6, I think. I'm having a
I think
having a
that's
hard
fair.
time thinking about. I'm not even sure why it's not 6 out of 6, but I think 5. I think I'll give 5 out of 6.
I think they're right on that cusp of that 6 leg because they're really cool. They're helpful. They don't bother me. They don't try to like get in my space. They're not up in my grill, but there's just something that's not quite special about them enough. They're just not quite special
Haven't
enough to get to
earned
that 6.
that 6 leg. They will sometimes get up in your business, but they're just something you're wearing is bright and attracting them is probably what's going on. But they don't bite or sting. They're harmless.
Yeah, which make always a favor for me. I like it better when they don't bite or sting. Yeah, I'd say 5 out of 6 legs.
We're in agreement.
They're good bugs.
Definitely good, beneficial to human bugs. 100%.
So if you've liked this dragon D&D inspired character, let us know if you want us to diverge into more different kinds of heroes, including D&D, including maybe something we haven't thought about yet. We typically do the comics just because that's kind of where we started from and where our backgrounds are. But if you've got a great idea for a different kind of hero, let us know. Thanks for listening, guys, and go out there and spy some dragonflies and know that they are different from damselflies. Don't be like me. Know that they're 2 different things. All right. Thanks, guys. Bugs Need Heroes is created by Derek Conrad and Kelly Zimmerman. Hosted by Amanda Allen Niday and Kelly Zimmerman. Bugs Need Heroes is produced and edited by Derek Conrad. Our music is Ladybug Castle by Roll Music. All art is provided by Amanda Allen Niday. Got a bug question? Email us at bugsneedheroes@gmail.com. Check us out on bugsneedheroes.com for the visual companion to our episodes with the artwork of the bug-related heroes. We also have an Instagram, Twitter, and subreddit under the Bugs Need Heroes name. Thanks for coming by. Time to go so I don't get eaten by a predator.